Okay. So yesterday, when we started, like, Hema, what is Maven? I'm gonna explain it to you. Don't worry about it. So we'll be, let's see if we get some time today. So we're gonna cover what exactly Maven is and how it will be beneficial as well. So we have seen yesterday that Selenium is actually not a tool, right? It is just a set of library, like a jar file, a Java project. Since we have started Selenium with Java, so Selenium, like for us, it will be like a jar file. In any case, if someone starts Selenium with C Sharp, so Selenium is available in a form of a DLL file. Same way for Ruby, Selenium is available in a form of a gem file. For Python, for JavaScript, for PHP, for different languages, different bindings are available. Same way when we started Selenium with Java, so we get it in a form of a jar file. And yesterday we have seen how we have created a jar file and what a jar file contains. Right, so jar file contains a lot of classes, a lot of methods. So Selenium has actually got so many classes and so many methods, which we will be able to find it from the main website of Selenium, that is selenium.dev. Right, so this is the main website of Selenium. And over here, I'll make you navigate through this website. This is a new website that they have migrated to. So initially it was seleniumhq.org, that is Selenium headquarters. So now they have moved it to selenium.dev. So if you go through this website, if you go to download, this we have already seen that the current version of Selenium is 3.141.59. So when we are getting started, we need to download, we need to click on this link, and this will gonna give us one single jar file, a 10 MB jar file. That is what Selenium is, and that contains so many classes and so many methods. In case you want to see what all list of classes are there in this project, then you need to go a little down and you will see that Selenium client and WebDriver language bindings. So over here, you can see Ruby, Java, different languages over here. So since we are working with Java, so you need to click on this API docs. So if you click on this, you're gonna see there's a huge list. So over here, there are so many classes, right? So it's a huge project. Anything that you need to handle on a web page, you're gonna find a class over here, right? You're gonna find a functionality over here. So Selenium can automate anything and everything that is available on a web page, right? So okay, I'm not able to see the page. Only your voice I can hear. Guys, how about others? Are you able to see the screen and able to like listen me? Okay, so Rakesh, the issue could be at your end. Please try to reconnect. Right. So I was telling you about that. I mean, there are so many classes in this project, and how we need to get started. That is what we need to look at. Yesterday, when we started with a little program, the code that we have written to launch a browser was a class with Chrome driver, right? And if you go over here, you're gonna find this class Chrome driver over here. If I scroll little up over here, you're gonna see that particular class over here. So this is a class. If you click on it, it will gonna show you that this is actually a class, right? And a class contains a lot of things. So a lot of methods are there, a lot of functionalities are there. So in some time, we'll be exploring all these stuff, right? Once we start with the WebDriver part, we're gonna explore all this stuff, right? But people who just joined have not attended the Java session. So once you are clear with the core Java part, then you should be able to understand these topics easily. Like what is a class, how to call methods, what are objects, what is an interface, all the oops part. So all the basic part, first it has to be clear, and then you should be able to understand this Java document, right? So this is about the Java document, and then if you go over here, you're gonna find some good documentation as well. Just a moment. So this is about the project. This is the documentation part. They are very well documented how you gonna get started with the Selenium project. So how to install Selenium. Basically, we cannot install Selenium. We can configure Selenium. So this is related to configuration of Selenium. Then how to get started with WebDriver, what are the worst practices that we should not follow, right? So a lot of things are there. It's a whole big documentation, but we'll be covering most part of it in our live sessions. Right. So then this is the support is basically this is an official group of Selenium that I would recommend you all should be joining. So this is a free Google group where all the Selenium developers are there to help you in your queries. So whenever you are practicing anything, if you get stuck with any doubts, any queries, you can simply post it over here, and many people around the world will gonna help you in your queries. Right. So this community has got thousands of people from across globe. So all the people who are practicing Selenium, all the developers of Selenium, even the creator of Selenium is there on. I mean, in this group, you're gonna find him as well. And at times, you'll see that he's also replying to your queries. Right. So this is a group that I would recommend you to join. Now, before we get started, like which company came up with Selenium? So whose project is Selenium? Like if I talk about QTP, you must be knowing who is the owner of QTP. QTP is the biggest competitor of Selenium, right? QTP, UFT. Which company came up with QTP? HP. So did HP, do they came up with QTP? Mercury, exactly. So Mercury is the one who came up with QTP, and later on HP has acquired it from Mercury. Similarly, if I talk about Selenium, which company came up with Selenium? Exactly. Not Google. How about others? Which company came up with Selenium? So most of you knows the answer. That's correct. It's ThoughtWorks. So ThoughtWorks is the one who designed the very first component of Selenium, the very first version of Selenium, that is Selenium 1.0. In this, there were two components, not two, there were three components. One is ID, one is RC, and one is grid 1. So these were the three components that were there in the very first version. It was started in 2004. And anyone knows the developer name who created this project, who started this project? Anyone? Any guess? Jason. So what's the full name? Not Hooks. It's basically Jason Higgins. Exactly. So he is the one who started this project. Now, in order to automate his daily routine task, he has created a small project. That project went up to such an extent they thought of giving it some name, and they came up with a name called as Selenium. Now, why only Selenium? There's a history behind that as well. So in 2000, as I said, QTP is the biggest competitor of Selenium. In 2004, Mercury was the actual owner of QTP, right? And if you talk about Mercury in general terms, Mercury is I believe everyone have seen Mercury, right? In thermometer. So there is a saying that, I mean, if thermometer breaks and if someone intake that mercury, then he'll gonna die. So if someone intakes that mercury, we give him an antidote. That is what Selenium is. So Selenium is basically an antidote to mercury. Selenium kills mercury. That is the reason they have given this project name as Selenium, so to end the market of QTP mercury. And up to such an extent, they are successful as well. Not just because of the cost. It's true that QTP was licensed. I mean, UFT is licensed, but Selenium is completely open source. Open source is not the only reason why Selenium is very popular. There are n number of factors behind it. If we talk about QTP, which language QTP supports? Which language QTP works on? VB, exactly. So it's VB script. So QTP supports VB script. And if I talk about VB script, which operating systems like VB script runs on which operating system? Windows, exactly. Only and only Windows. It means if you are using QTP, then you're restricted to Windows only. You can automate your stuff on Windows only. And these days, in the current market, there are many people using MacBooks. There are many people using Linux machine. Different operating systems are like many people are using like Solaris. Many people are using iOS, Android, and number of operating system are in use these days. And if we talk about like let's say a client has to get his product tested, and it could be a web-based project, it could be a desktop-based project. So we can only perform testing on Windows if we are working on QTP, because we can only install QTP on Windows, right? Whereas if we talk about Selenium, we have seen that how many languages Selenium supports. So if you see over here, so Selenium has got a multi-language support, not just scripting language. There's Ruby, JavaScript, PHP. These are scripting languages. There's Java, Python, C Sharp. These are purely object-oriented languages. In which, if we talk about Java only, Java is one of the most powerful language, very popular in the industry. 70% of the current openings are Selenium is in Java, and then Python is the next language that you should go for, right? But still, if you Google around for any queries, you'll see that 70% of the response are in Selenium with Java. So if I talk about Java specifically, if you have ever installed Java, the very first screen that you're gonna see is 3 billion devices runs on Java. So be it Linux, Mac, Android, iOS, any operating system that you name is supported by Java. And if you are running your Selenium code in Java, you can execute that code in any operating system that you want, and that too without any license. So this is one of the best reason to use Selenium, that you can run your code in any operating system. You can choose any language that you want. You can work with any browser. And the best part is that this is a time of cloud computing. 75% of the projects these days are web based, right? They're open via URL. And Selenium is one of the best automation tool or project which you can use and automate anything and everything available on a web. So this is one of the best reason to use Selenium. And there are a number of other factors as well that we're going to talk about. But Selenium itself, in your entire training, in your entire automation project, Selenium itself is just 25%. If I talk about, we were talking about the components of Selenium, like ID, RC, WebDriver Grid. These are just 25% in your automation project. Then what is the rest 75%? So we talked about other integrations that we can do with Selenium. Java, exactly. Java covers the major part. That's true. But not just Java. There are a number of other integrations that we do with Selenium. You remember, when we have written this code, so what this code was doing, if I run this, it will gonna launch a browser, it navigates to google.com, and it will actually gonna get the title of the page. Right, if I close it and if I move it here, then you're gonna see that this Google is printed, right? I can add some more steps over here. You remember we have done some record and play using Selenium IDE as well. So this was the code that was extracted from that record and play. If I just copy this one single line, I'll just copy this and paste it over here. So what this line is doing, don't worry about it. What is this find element? What is this buy? What is send keys? Don't worry about it. This is a very simple line to understand. Once we start with WebDriver, I'm gonna make you understand. But right now, what this is doing, if you navigate to Google, it will just gonna type Selenium in the search box. So if I run this thing right now, so over here you can see that it has actually typed Selenium, right? So we have followed couple of steps over here, right? If I talk about like these steps, these could be the manual test cases that I have automated, right? Automation. Why we use automation? Because we want to automate our manual testing steps so that it takes less time for the testing purpose, right? That is why we use automation. So if I talk about these steps, there could be around 3 4 test cases in these steps. Like the test case verify user is able to navigate to google.com, verify the title of the page, verify user is able to type something into the input box, right? So there are around 3 test cases over here. But if you take a look at the console menu, do you see how many test cases are passed or how many are failed? Is it printing something like out of 3 test cases all 3 are passed, or 2 pass 1 fail? It's not doing like that, right? Because this is not a task of Selenium task is not to convert your code into test cases. Selenium will never gonna report it. That how, even if you have written 1,000 lines of code, it will not going to tell you out of these 1,000 lines these are passing and these are failing. But at the end, as a tester, this is what we need to report. That whatever execution that we have done, if the execution is taking 4 hours, then out of that 4 hours, how many test cases are passed and how many fail? At the end, this is what report we need to deliver. Right? This is what the purpose of automation is. So Selenium will not gonna do any such task. For that, we need an additional library. Another Java project that is called as TestNG. Initially, there was JUnit, and now the most popular one in the industry is TestNG. So entire market is using TestNG itself. So TestNG is another API. API, we can call it as an API, we can call it as a framework. This is basically a Java framework. Like we called Selenium as a framework, we called Selenium as an API. Same way, TestNG is also an API. It's a Java framework. Java framework as in how we have added Selenium. We added a jar file of Selenium. See, in this project, Selenium comes as a single jar file. Same way, if I want to add TestNG to this project, I'll simply right click over here, say build path, add library, TestNG, next, finish. And if you see over here, all the TestNG jars are added. So this is a different Java project created by a different third-party organization. But now, if you use the functionality available in this project, you can convert your code into test cases. It will report how many are pass, how many are fail, right? It will help you to generate a HTML report, an interactive report, which you can present it to the client. So that is what the purpose of this TestNG, and it has nothing to do with Selenium. But without using TestNG in your automation project, there is no use of just using Selenium, because Selenium task is just to click and type and perform action on web. But till the time if you won't get results like how many are pass, how many are fail, there is no purpose of automation, right? I see JUnit, I don't see TestNG in the build path. You're not gonna see it by default. You need to do some installation for that. So I'll gonna let you know how you're gonna install configure TestNG once we start with the TestNG topic. Right? So don't worry. Guys, don't try to practice right now. See, this will be a 2 hour session. I want that no one should be parallelly testing, because we are actually recording this session, right? So at the end, you'll be getting the recording of these sessions. So just try to understand the concepts right now. And after this, you can practice on your own, right? Okay, so this is about TestNG. Now, the other thing, if you see over here, this is something like a data that I've entered, right? This is my test data. So normally, test data, it's in a huge amount. Like we have so many rows and so many columns in like the data could be username, data could be password, data could be some fields that we need to enter. So normally we don't hard code the data over here. We want it to be read from an external file. External file like could be an Excel file. So generally we maintain our test data in Excel files itself, right? So yes, Anjali, I have like covered the Selenium like configuration in yesterday demo session itself. I'm gonna let you know how we're gonna do that again, so don't worry about it. I'll again gonna explain it to you. So it's a very simple process. I'll again tell it to you, right? So but before that, I was talking about that test data we never hard coded over here in the code. Even the URL that I've written over here, I'll not be writing it over here. I'm gonna read it from some external files. So if I talk about how we're gonna get data from Excel file, Selenium will not gonna help in that. Selenium will not gonna help you in reading Excel file, Notepad files, XML file, JSON file, but that is where we actually maintain our test data. And in our automation project, we have to use all these utilities. We want to read data from Excel. So Selenium will not gonna help, not gonna do anything in that. So for Excel, we'll be using another Java project created by another organization that is called as POI API. So this is POI API, and this is actually designed by Apache. So if you Google around, if you see over here, if you just type Apache POI API, you can see the Java API for Microsoft Documents. It helps you in manipulating Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and n number of Microsoft documents programmatically. And what is this API? How to get this API? This is nothing. You need to get a jar file for your project. Something like, I'll show you where we can get it. We need to type POI, and this is Apache POI. So don't worry about this website. This is like a centralized repository where you'll find all the jar files. Even if you want to search for Selenium, just type Selenium, press enter, and you're gonna see your Selenium project as well over here. This is Selenium Java. See, this 4 is in alpha, and this is 3.141.59, and you can directly download the jar file from here as well for Selenium. And same way, if I'm searching for a different Java project, all open source projects, they check in their jar files on this repository, that is Maven repository, right? So Maven is a build tool as well, and Maven maintains all these jar files as well. So this is a POI jar file. Now, once I've downloaded it, I need to add it to Eclipse. So how to add it? Just right click on your project the way that we have added Selenium jar, right? So someone right now asked me how we have configured Selenium. So how we have configured it: when you create your Java project, you just need to right click on your project, go to build path, add external archives, and here we have selected the Selenium jar file. That's it. And the same way we need to select this POI jar. If I click on open, along with your Selenium jar, now POI is also added. Now you can call the classes and methods which are there inside this POI jar, and you can do the Excel reading and writing as well. So, but Selenium has nothing to do with Excel reading and writing. But this is your need of your project, right? So we'll be covering the Apache POI part as well, right? So what is the difference in JUnit and TestNG, Priyanka? JUnit and TestNG both are the Java framework. Both are used for unit testing, and we'll be using it for automation itself. JUnit is like an old API. TestNG, you can say it's a enhanced version of JUnit itself. The purpose of JUnit, TestNG is both same, right? So in market currently, in automation specifically, TestNG is used. Developers are still working on JUnit itself, right? But the purpose of both TestNG and JUnit is same. It helps you to design test cases itself, right? What is the difference between configure build path and add external archives? configure build path is just an option. I mean, build path and then add external archive. Okay, you're talking about this option. See, there are two ways to add the jars. Either you can directly add it from here, or click on configure build path and go to libraries and click on add external jars and select the jar and then add it. That's it. So it will gonna do the same stuff. Just that two more steps are added. You can directly add it if you go through build path and add external archives, right? Okay, so then maybe my test data was not in Excel, it was in database, SQL or MySQL or Oracle, and I want to do some database testing as well. So normally what we, as a tester, what we do in database testing, we validate the results, the records that are showing on the UI is the same that is showing in the DB. For that, we write some SQL queries, we add some joins, some subqueries, we write some complex queries, but the end result is the data that we need to validate. If the data that is showing in database is the same that is coming on the UI, that is what sort of database testing we can do when we are working on Selenium. Now again, database testing or getting the data from SQL, MySQL, it's not a task of Selenium. That is again another API provided by the vendors itself. Like for MySQL, SQL, Oracle, they provide their own APIs. If you search for MySQL over here, MySQL search, you get this MySQL connector Java, and you can download the latest one. So this is the jar file. With this jar file, you should be able to perform a JDBC connection with database. You should be able to write queries, and then you should be able to get the result set in your Eclipse itself. And then you should be able to validate it with the UI part. Just that you need to right click the same way that you have added other jars. You'll be adding this jar as well. Now you should be able to perform JDBC connection. So you can do database testing as well, right? So yesterday when we were discussing about that we can only do web-based testing when we are working on Selenium, we can now automate the database part as well. The entire database, I mean, what all SQL queries you know, you can execute it using the Java code itself. So this part can also be automated when you are working on Selenium itself, right? Okay, so this is regarding the JDBC, the database part, right? What else? Now let's say if I'm executing some stuff, it may gonna take 3-4 hours to finish the automation task. But I'm not gonna sit in front of my laptop and I'll be watching what all actions are being performed for the whole 4 hours, right? Otherwise, there's no purpose of doing automation, right? I'll not be sitting and checking whether it has clicked on that button, whether it has clicked on the link, whether it has typed the exact value. Because if I'm continuously watching for 4 hours, I can do manual testing as well. There is no purpose of automation. But at the end, I should be knowing the exact results. Whether each and every link is clicked, each and every text is being entered, the exact text. So I want the logs for each and every event. So generating logs is again not a task of Selenium. For that, there is another API called as log4j. This is another jar file, right? This is again created by Apache itself. So you can see anything. These things are not related to Selenium. These are all Java projects, different Java projects. Anything that is feasible in Java, you can achieve that thing using Selenium. This is one of the best reasons to choose Selenium. Why? Because Selenium is not a tool. If it is a tool, then a tool always has some boundaries. QTB, UFT is a tool, RFT is a tool. So a tool contains, like a tool has 100 features in it. You can use only those 100 features and automate your stuff. If a tool is not capable of doing some stuff which is not there in any particular feature of that tool, you cannot automate it. That is the reason you always say 100% cannot be automated. But this is not with Selenium. Specifically related to web based. Anything that is feasible in Java, you can integrate that thing with Selenium. Even if Selenium is not supporting it, if Java supports it, you can achieve that thing in your project. This is one of the best reasons to use Selenium. Right? So then we have something called as Maven. Maven is basically a build tool, because whenever we are working in automation, we are writing code, we are writing the code over here, right? And we are executing it from this run button. Now, I don't want to execute it through run button. I want that there should be a file, something like this. I should double click on it and it should execute my task. So something like, let me see if I have, because this is my new laptop, so I need to do all the configuration again. But let me see from my previous project, I'll show you one example on how Maven actually works. Okay, something like this. If I double click on this, see, the project is building, running the test suite. So Maven has actually called test.ng, and see, now it is launching a browser, and it will gonna navigate to the website, and reading data from Excel, and then done. So no Eclipse is involved, right? With just double clicking on this file, the entire automation happened. This is what is done with the help of this Maven, and Maven is actually a build tool. So there are a number of build tools available in the market. Maven is most popular. So prior to Maven, it was like people use Ant as well. Ant was one of the tool. Then we have Gradle as well, which is again a wrapper of over Maven, right? You could not understand Maven because we have not yet configured it. I just have shown you one example. Maven is a build tool. Build as in, if you see over here, while we are running this task, this is a plain Java file. This file will be converted into a class file, right? Although this thing is, we are going to cover in the Java sessions, but when I'm running this code is actually compiled and built, and then it is executed. Now, if I am not using Eclipse, I can still build my code and run it. Like if you see over here, when I double click over here, Maven is actually building this thing. The same steps that Eclipse perform, Maven is actually doing it for you and running your complete automation task. So Maven is not just a build tool. Maven manages your jar files as well. Jar files, we call it as dependencies. So Maven is actually a dependency management tool, plus it is a build tool. Now, once we study about Maven, how you're going to configure it, the details of Maven, then you'll be able to understand it more. But right now, you can just take a look at this example that I need not to use Eclipse. I'm just double clicking on this file and it is running my entire Java project. It is building it, compiling it, and then running it. So that is a task that is done with the help of Maven. Right. So we're going to go more in depth of Maven once we configure it. Okay, so this is Maven. And then there is another important CI tool that is used with Selenium, that is Jenkins. Many of you may have heard about Jenkins. Many of you may not have heard about Jenkins. So Jenkins is like a GUI tool. GUI as in a web-based tool which can be accessed from any part of the world, depend on how you have configured it. Now, the task that I'm running over here, this is on my local machine. Maybe my client is sitting overseas. Yeah, we'll be covering Jenkins as well. Maybe the client is sitting overseas. Maybe he's in Australia, in US, any part of the world, and he wants to run my project. He wants to run. He want to see how many test cases are getting passed, how many are getting failed. So there is one way that I can just zip my project and forward it to him via some drive, via Google Drive, let's say. But a client is a non-technical person. He'll not be able to configure everything on his own, and he'll not be able to understand what code I have written. He just wanted to see the results. How many test cases are passed, how many test cases are failed. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna give him a UI something like this. I'll see if I have configured on this machine. So I'm gonna show it to you. Uh, just a moment. Yeah, I do have it. Okay, I should run it through this command. Give me a moment. We'll be covering all this setup, all this configuration once we proceed with the course. Before that, we have to be good in core Java, and people who have already done core Java will be starting with the WebDriver first. These things will gonna come later on once you are good in handling the website, once you're comfortable in automating any feasible website on the web, then we're gonna start with these things. Is var file necessary to run Jenkins? There are many ways to run Jenkins. There is a setup file as well, so exe as well, but var is recommended. If you install it through exe, you're not gonna see the browser showing up. Browser showing up when you are running your test. It will gonna do headless execution for you. So this is how the Jenkins UI it looks like. Client will gonna get his username and password, and client will just gonna sign into this UI. So this is a similar project which you're gonna configure it on Jenkins and give it to the client. What client task is to just click on this schedule build, and you're gonna see a build will be triggered over here. See, a build is triggered. Let's see what is going inside this build. I'll take you to this console output. So this is the same stuff that we have seen in command prompt. See, it has executed called Maven. Maven is calling testng. Testng is calling this Chrome driver, which is WebDriver class, and the execution is happening over here. Oh, it is done. So the browser was launched, but it was not maximized. I'll again run it. So something like, I'll again build it. So there's no need of Eclipse now. Client will simply gonna click on the build button, and then it should actually launch this, a browser launch, and all the testing will be done again. And that's it. Right, so it was a very basic test execution. Right. Okay, Dheeraj, you're not able to hear me. Guys, how about others? Are you able to hear me? Okay, it's fine now. Okay, thanks for confirming. All right. Right, so this is what Jenkins is, and we can map our reports as well over here. Okay, I've not added that reporting part right now over here, but reports are generated. We can generate some interactive reports. Like, sir, can we execute our whole project? Yes, you can execute the entire project using Jenkins. Maven and Jenkins both are used for build. Maven is a build tool. Jenkins is a multi-purpose tool. It's not just building it. You can do a lot of integration. You can integrate your reports. You can do continuous integration. Continuous integration is something like it's again a big process to explain right now. So it's like if there is a developer who checks in some code and you want that once the developer checks in, you should test that particular part, right? So you have written some automation script, and once developer check in some code, you execute that automation script. But that you're doing it manually, although you're doing automation. But once you receive an email from a developer that okay, I have checked in that code, you need to perform testing on your build to make sure whether the build is stable or not. Now, let's take up a scenario. Client is sitting in US, tester is sitting in India, right? Clients checking some code. So when client checking the code, it was daytime for the client. Not sorry, not the client, developer. When developer checks in the code, it was daytime for developer and nighttime for tester. So now tester will gonna come exactly after 12 hours, and then he'll gonna perform testing on that particular build that developer has given. Again, maybe tester might find a lot of bugs, lot of issues in that build. The build was not stable. He'll gonna write up a mail, logs all the bugs, and then send it back to the developer. Now again, developer will gonna come to the office after 12 hours because there's a time gap in India and US. Again, developer will gonna fix. Again, he sends it to the tester. Again, the testing will be done after 12 hours. And for testing, what you are doing, you have already automated your regression stuff. You're just double clicking on it and executing it. So client wants that as soon as I commit the code, as soon as I have fixed the issues, I commit the code, the testing should be done at the same time. That is where the Jenkins continuous integration comes into the picture. So Jenkins, you can like if I talk about checking in the code, where do we actually check in the code? We use SVN, we use GitHub, right? There are a lot of repositories available. So we map our GitHub repository to Jenkins, right? Whenever client is done with the coding, at the end of the day, it's tasked that everyone has to check in the code. So as soon as the client checks in the code, Jenkins will gonna read that repository. So as soon as Jenkins finds there is a check-in, it will give a call to your build tool, that is Maven, and Maven will gonna build your project and run it. And at the end, once the execution is completed, you want there should be a report that should get generated. And that report should be attached to an email and send it to the client automatically. So how that thing is actually gonna done, the reporting part and sending of email, all these process will be automated. So if I talk about reports, how the reports they looks like. Reports are something like I'll show it to you from one of my live project. The reporting part is something. First, I'll show you a basic report. So report looks something like this. How many test cases are passed? So both test cases are passed over here. I'll show you some failed test cases as well. And if I go over here, okay, right now we just executed, so there won't be any failed test case. Okay, this one is from the previous project. So see, three tests executed, out of which one passed, two failed, and whichever is failed, you'll see a screenshot as well attached over here. A screenshot and then the failure exception. So this is basically report ng, right? Report ng is basically a plugin to generate HTML reports using your TestNG framework. So report ng is another API. It's another API, another jar file. Similarly, there are a number of interactive reports available. There's something called as extent reports, which are very popular in the industry. So we'll be generating extent report. We'll be learning how to generate extent reports as well. in our course. So something like, I'll show you that report. So extend reports look something like this. These are more interactive reports. See, Serenity is a different framework. Serenity is also in use, but there are so many frameworks, right? See how many pass, how many fail, skip. If you go over here, you get a graphical view and the automation tester name, organization, build numbers, start time, end time, total time taken. So these reports are more interactive. You can attach your screenshots as well over here. Right now, I've not attached it, but you can attach your screenshots, right? Each and every step by step information, clicking on the button, typing in first name, last name, enter postcode. So each and every log that you can integrate in this report, right? So what is the difference in report ng, extend report, log4j? Log4j will gonna generate logs like plain logs in a file. If you want to add logs for every event, something like I'll show you log4j as well over here. Log4j looks like the logging look like this. So these are the logs. So there are some files which we have loaded. We have launched Chrome. We have navigated to the website. We are inside the login test. So these are like with current timestamp, you can generate logs. So something like a system generated logs as well over here, right? With current timestamp. So this is what logging part, which is done with log4j, right? Extend report, report ng, extend report. These are two different reports. Report ng is not very interactive. Extend reports are more interactive. Yes, in real-time project, we do use all these things. And we'll be working on all these things. We'll be generating all these things. We'll be learning how to configure and generate reports, generate logs. So all these things will be covered in the course. Right. So, but again, what all things that we have seen so far, these are not tasks of Selenium. Right? So we can skip the use of report ng. Yes, I mean it depends. I mean, you want to add both the reports in your project, you can use both the reports. You want to skip report ng and generate extend reports only, you can use that thing as well. It all depends. Right. Dheeraj, GitHub, I'm not going to cover in the live sessions, but the details are already, I mean, if you go through your particular course that you may have access to, I've already covered the entire GitHub over here. So if you see Git, so learning continuous integration, Git, installing Git, how to check in, check out code, everything is covered already over here. So see, there are so many things to cover in Selenium. So this is basically never-ending process. The learning is never-ending in Selenium. So, but in our live sessions, these will be somewhere around 2.5 to 3 months session. So it is very difficult to cover everything. So my focus is what all things that you need for the industry to get started. We should be working on frameworks. We should learn end-to-end automation of website, handling all simple and complex and dynamic elements. So these are the things we'll be covering, and gonna do a lot of integration. So once we learn all this stuff, you will be very much ready that anything that you want to integrate, you can do a simple Google around and you can integrate that stuff easily. And if you don't find it in Google, you'll find it over here in the videos, because I've made sure that a lot of whatever that people are facing in a daily basis, what all integrations are done with Selenium, I've tried to cover most of the part in the videos. So these videos are over 100 hours. You're going to see all these things over. Jira integration is not yet there, but I have a plan to launch a video series on how we can install, configure Jira, and then we can integrate the same with Selenium and have our test case pass fail in Jira as well. Right. We have a list of topics. So what all things that I'm mentioning over here will be covered, and then there is a PDF file as well. I'm gonna forward it to you. Right. So all these things will be covered. But yes, I was talking about Selenium, that Selenium, why it is 25%, because these things are not related to Selenium. But without these things, you cannot create a project, an automation project. Can we do API testing in Selenium? API testing has nothing to do with Selenium. API testing will gonna test your web services, REST and SOAP. For that, there are different APIs, but yes, you can integrate that part with Selenium as well, right? Like I was talking about Selenium for web based, right? But we can integrate database as well. Not just database, we can do mobile testing as well if we know Selenium. I'll show you a small demo on mobile how you can test by writing the same code, the code that we have written over here. This same code, driver.get and driver.find element. If you write the same code, you can run it on your real device as well. Just the only change you need to do, instead of Chrome driver, you need to write Android driver, and it will start running on your real Android device. I'll show you one example. Let me open up TeamViewer. Give me a moment. Let me connect my mobile device and then I'll show it to you. Strict support. Just a moment. Okay, let me connect my device. Just a moment. All right, so this is my real device. Right, so what I'm gonna do, okay, so I'll show you one code. See, this is the same code. Driver.get google.com. See, this is what we have written. Driver.get google.com. Driver.find element, find element, and here I'm typing hello APM. The only change I did is instead of Chrome driver, I've written Android driver, right? And then there are little more configuration that is required. So we'll be covering this part as well, right? Don't worry about it. What all examples that I'm going to show you right now, will be covering these in the live sessions. So let me run this code and let's see what happens. And let me show you the mobile device. It's taking some time. Yeah. See, it has launched the browser, navigating to Google, and we're going to type hello appium, and then we're going to quit. See? So this execution was actually done on the real device. And this is a web-based application. Your mobile device has 3 types of applications. So what are these applications? One is a web-based application. One is a native application. And one is a hybrid application. So web apps are the one that we are testing using Selenium as well on our laptop browsers. So same testing we can do it on our mobile device as well, on Chrome browser for Android, Safari browser for iOS. Natives are your standalone applications like your calculator, dialer, camera, any standalone application that you have installed on your device. Hybrid is a combination of native plus web. So anything which runs through internet, like Facebook app, WhatsApp, LinkedIn app, it is a standalone application, but there are web views as well. At times you click on a link, it may open up a HTML page. So those are called as hybrid apps. So all these things can be tested using another API that is called as APM. So what APM is? APM is nothing, it's just a wrapper over your WebDriver API. If you know Selenium, you can easily work on APM. See, APM is an open source test automation framework used with native hybrid mobile web application. Derives iOS, Android, and Windows phones using the same WebDriver protocol. So if you know WebDriver, you should be able to work on APM easily. What all configuration that will gonna do? With those configuration, you can do your own R&D, own research, and you can automate mobile applications as well. But there is a whole big course on APM, somewhere around 70 hours of lectures that I've designed. And you need not to do anything else. I'm gonna give you free access to that APM course. So this is the whole big APM course that I've designed. So how to work on MacBook, Linux, iOS, Android, mobile automation frameworks, handling native, hybrid. So all these things, tapping, swiping, all these things are already covered, right? So you're gonna get free access to this course as well, right? So once you're comfortable with Selenium, you can get your hands dirty with the APM part as well, so that you should be ready with both web as well as mobile automation testing. Because the current market, whichever company has their own web application, they have the mobile applications as well. And at time when we are traveling, we don't carry our laptop along with us. Most of the time we are all our mobile device, right? So we are purchasing things from mobile device like Amazon, like a number of e-commerce applications are there that we install on our mobile device. We enter the credit card information. So if testing of web applications are important, testing of mobile applications are equally important. And same way, if Selenium is very popular in the industry, APM has a equivalent market uh, in the industry. I mean, the openings of APM are like anything in the industry. So mobile testing and web testing. If you know Selenium, you can automate mobile part as well. Not just web based. I've shown you a web based example. If I show you this example, I'll okay. Give me a moment. So this quick TeamViewer, it is basically a licensed product, so it actually terminates automatically. Give me a moment. But I mean, like when you use this TeamViewer, you can use it for free. It's just like we should not use it for commercial purpose. So like the session terminates in 10-15 minutes. Okay, let me connect it again. I'll show you one more example. So when I'm talking about a native or a hybrid application, we have just seen web application, right? So now if I run this code, what this will gonna do is this will make a phone call on my real mobile device. Let's see. See, it has launched the dialer. Now it is dialing the numbers, and we'll click on the dial button, right? So this is how we can automate, and the process is very simple. See, find element number 1, 2, 3, 4, clicking on it. That's it. The code is very simple. Just that we need to learn what all these things are. So we'll be learning all these things in depth, right? So what is Git and GitHub? Git is something that you install on your machine where you commit the code. After committing the code, you need to push the code to a centralized repository. That is what GitHub is. So GitHub is a centralized repository. It's like a URL. If you go over here, this is basically a website. GitHub. Just type github.com. This is where you check in your code. So you can see some of my frameworks I have checked in over here. So all the code that I'm writing over here, you're gonna find that code over here. So the code is on my machine, and using Git, Git is like a client which I have installed on my machine. So through that client, when I do check-in, it checks in the code, and when I push it, it push it to GitHub. See, all this coding part is over here. So I can do check-in and check-out. This is what Git and GitHub is. Okay, Priyanka, you're getting confused with what Maven and Jenkins is. We're gonna have a detailed configuration on these things. So once we cover it in our sessions, you should be able to understand. But right now, just understand that Maven is like a build tool. We are not using Eclipse. We are building our code through Maven. And Jenkins is a multi-purpose tool. So Jenkins is calling your Maven as well. Jenkins is doing continuous integration as well. Jenkins is just a UI that has a URL. This URL, you can access it from any part of the world. So if your client wants to run your automation script, he need not to have the code installed on his machine. He'll simply log into this URL, click on run, and he should be able to see what all execution, what all test cases are passing, what all test cases are failing. And you can integrate your reports as well over here. So client will just gonna click on this. He should be able to see the extent reports, the report ng report, everything from any location. That is what Jenkins is. GitHub is open source, as in GitHub has some license as well, but like for your personal account, you can check in your code. It will be public to everyone. Everyone should be able to see that code. But if you purchase the license, then you're gonna maintain private repository. So the best part of GitHub is that it is on the cloud network. Cloud means you can access it from anywhere in the world. It will be accessed via URL. But if you talk about other like SVN, it is local to your intranet. You have to install it within your intranet. GitHub, you can access it from any part of the world. So these days, majorly companies are using GitHub. Right? So now you have seen that we can do mobile testing as well. If we know Selenium, we can handle database, we can handle mobile, we can handle web. Now, if I talk about desktop applications, although desktops are very less, but if you go to APM official repository, official blogging website, that is apmpro.com. On this website, if you go to this all edition, you'll see edition somewhere over here. So recently, not very recently, last year itself, they introduced something called as testing Windows desktop app with APM. So there's something called as Win App Driver, which is another Java project, another API called as Win App Driver. If you use this project, you can automate your calculator on your laptop as well. Right? You can automate desktop applications using this. And the code is the same. If you go through this code, there is same driver.find element. So yeah, driver.find element. Same thing that we have done in Selenium. See, all these are coming from Selenium libraries itself. Right? So all these are wrappers over Selenium. So now you can see you can automate web, you can automate desktop, you can automate mobile, you can automate database. And last thing that is left is web services. Yeah, Vinium is another wrapper over WebDriver to automate desktop applications. So what are web services? What are web services? These are very important these days. Almost every website, they consume some web services. Even if you talk about Facebook, Amazon, any big application, any e-commerce application, banking domain, health domain, travel domain, every domain, they have some web services, they consume some web services, they expose these web services. So what are web services? Manjit, you have heard that you cannot automate API with Selenium. Yes, that's true, because Selenium is only for UI testing, the web-based testing only. If you want to test API, then there are some other integrations that you can do. But yes, you can integrate that with Selenium as well. Okay, so what are web services? Set of protocols to transfer data. Exactly. Something used to carry data with the help of API. The API which needs internet is called web services. So the services over the web are called as web services, right? So what types of web services are there? You may have heard about something called as SOAP, something called as REST. 95% of the projects are actually working on this REST. So REST APIs. Right, SOAP is almost outdated. So majorly websites are using REST web services. See, Selenium comes at a UI layer. Whenever a project is designed, developed, so which is the very first thing that is developed? In a project, we have a UI layer, we have a middle layer, that is our business layer, and we have a DB layer. So whenever a project is developed, which is the very first thing that is developed? A UI is developed, a business is developed, or DB is developed? Database, exactly. So the very first thing that is designed is the database. And after that, the business layer, the middle layer, and then at the end, the UI layer. So there are different front-end developers, there are different business developers, and there are different DBAs, the database developers, right, in an organization. So what happens, let's say if I talk about I'm automating a website using Selenium. Selenium can only test the UI part, right? Selenium cannot test middle layer or DB. DB we can integrate it. We have already seen using SQL, MySQL APIs, we can integrate using the Java code, and we can do database testing as well. But when a UI is designed, I mean, when we are testing UI through the Selenium part, maybe I'm testing a login window. A login has got a username, a password, and a submit button. And I need to test this login like with a lot of permutation and combination. Like the way we do manual testing, how we test a login window, we enter valid username, valid password, invalid username, invalid password. I've done a lot of permutation on combination to test this. Or maybe I need to do some login based testing for 100 users. At times we need to test whether all the 100 users are working fine or not. So I've written a small code in Selenium that should enter username, password, click on submit button and close the window. Right. But if I have to test it for 100 users, so 100 times it will launch a browser, enter username, password, click on submit and close the window. I can parameterize it, as in I can keep all the data in Excel, all the 100 username and password in Excel. I can read it from Excel sheet. All the 100 user name and password will be read one by one. So first a browser will be launched, first username, password will be entered, submit button will be clicked, and then the browser will be closed. Then again, second username and password will be entered, before that browser will be launched, and at the end browser will be quit. So 100 times a browser will be launched, 100 times username, password will be entered, and 100 times browser will be closed. Now let's assume right now the UI is not developed. So what developed is a login API. And login API is, let's say, in a form of XML. APIs are majorly in a form of a XML or JSON. So there's a XML, something like username and password. Now, if I test this API, if I write some code and try to enter values over here, there won't be anything, no browser will launch and no browser will close, because browser comes at the UI part. The UI is not yet designed. Company has only designed the API part, and company asked me to test this API with all the 100 users. So when I enter the username and password in this API, I get a response something like 200 OK, which means the authentication is successful. The username, password that I've entered is correct, right? And if I test it for all 100 users, so everything will be tested, right? The complete login functionality is tested now. I have made sure that all the username, password, all the special characters, all the permutation and combination, everything I have tested in the API part. And later on, when the UI is designed and this API is mapped with the UI, then what bugs you're gonna find in the UI part? Will you gonna see any issues related to the functionality if you have thoroughly tested the API? You're not gonna see anything, any issue, just the cosmetic issues. Maybe some spelling mistake is there, some font mistake is there. If the API is already well tested, then you'll find very few issues at the time when the API is integrated with UI. And why API testing is important? So we need to understand this thing first. I'm gonna make you understand with the help of this example. So what is basically API is doing over here? So let's say I take up an example. There is a website, Expedia.com. Right? Expedia is basically a travel website, right? Something like in India, it's very popular, something called as makemytrip.com, right? So I believe most of the people have navigated through Make My Trip. And Expedia is also popular, right? Where we search for flights. Let's say I was searching for a flight from New Delhi, from Delhi to let's say Seattle. Right, I was searching it on Expedia. I got so many results. I got results from Air India. I got results from let's say British Airways. I got results from like some Air Asia as well, some Malaysian Airlines, and number of airlines are there, right? So what I did, I went to this Air India part and I have blocked a seat that is A1 from Expedia.com. Right now, Make My Trip is also doing the same stuff. When I go back to this Make My Trip, can I again book a ticket A1 from Make My Trip from Delhi to Seattle? I've already booked it from Expedia. I cannot again book it, right? So how come Make My Trip knows that this A1 seat is blocked? How come Make My Trip knows? So what happens when A1 seat is blocked? Where the results are updated? So whenever a ticket is booked for Air India, the A1 seat, where the results are updated? In the DB, exactly. So which DB? Expedia DB or Air India DB? It will be updated in Air India database. Right, that's true. So how come Make My Trip knows about it? That like the A1 seat is blocked. So is Air India sharing their database with Make My Trip? As soon as a ticket is confirmed, what Air India does, it gives away the entire database to Make My Trip. Not just Make My Trip, there are n number of websites. I mean, some of the websites are like Make My Trip is there. In India, there is another popular something called as Go Ibibo is there, right? Go Ibibo is there, and then Yatra.com is there. N number of websites are there from which like where we can navigate and we can book flight tickets from Delhi to Seattle. Right. So if I go to those websites and if I search for Delhi to Seattle ticket, how will they know that this A1 flight, A1 seat is reserved? It's not available now. So is Air India transferring the data on the runtime to all the websites? Is Air India copying their database to all the website? The data is in bulk, not just Air India. It could be British Airways, it could be n number of other airlines. So are they on the runtime? Are they transferring the data as soon as the ticket is booked? That is not feasible, right? It's their crucial data which they have in database. They are not going to share it with anyone else. So how they are communicating? How Expedia comes to know that A1 ticket is blocked, or Make My Trip comes to know that this seat is reserved, this is available on Air India or British Airways. How they come to know that? With the help of API. So the API, which is actually designed, developed, and shared by all these airlines. So Air India has got their own API which they have designed, and Expedia is sending the request to this API. There are n number of protocols available, n number of methods available in API testing, something called as get request, post request, put request, delete request. It's whole a separate domain, but it's very important for a tester to know API testing as well. So Expedia sends the request to this API, and API validates the request, send it to the database, validate through database. If the A1 seat is already booked, it will send back the response to Expedia that the seats are not available. And if not booked, it will gonna book it. So if we have booked the ticket, the seat A1 from Expedia, now we are searching it from GoIBibo. GoIBibo will not directly communicate with the database. It will send the request to this API. And then API will validate it and send back the response to GoIBibo. This is how the entire process happens with the help of this API. And this is where we actually test this API using some tools as well. Have you heard about some tools through which we can perform testing on API? For API, have you heard about any tools? Postman, exactly. So Postman is a very popular tool. Postman is there, Soap UI is there, right? But these are all manual testing tools. Postman, Soap UI, when you use Postman, you actually do manual testing. Swagger, you use and you do manual testing on these APIs. You're manually changing the values and hitting these APIs. Now, what company they says they have a Java project ready with them through which they are handling a UI layer. They're handling the database layer. They have their mobile application, same framework they are using for mobile as well. And all these things are open source. They are not paying any license for it. Everything can be handled from one single project. Then why do you want to invest into a different tool? SoapUI as a licensed tool has got a free version as well. But again, it's a separate tool. So we want everything should be derived from the same project. We should not be dependent on any tool. So what we need to tell company that we have another API available, another Java project available that is called as REST assured. And this is nothing. This is just a jar file. The way we have added Selenium jar, POI jar, database jar, I can add this another one single jar file and I can automate the APIs as well. Not manually testing, we can automate the APIs. API testing part. So that is what, if you know Selenium, you are building up your base for automation. You can work on all these things slowly and steadily. If you are into automation, down the line 2-3 years, you'll be practically working on all these things. But Selenium is like your start in automation because Selenium is very easy to learn. Right? So all these things can be integrated in one single project. That is the reason why Selenium is very popular, because you can do any integration that is feasible in Java. And with other automation tools, there are boundaries. Whatever functionality they are providing, you are bounded to that functionality only. And in Selenium, there is no boundary. That is one of the best reasons to use Selenium. Right? So that is the thing on the theory part. There is no more theory in Selenium, right? But these things are very important to know, that Selenium, what is the background of Selenium, what all components are there, what all things that are feasible that we can achieve with Selenium before we get started with the Selenium part. Right? So do we need to learn MySQL also, or see MySQL, Oracle? the purpose of learning these things is that you should be comfortable in writing SQL queries. So you can use any platform, SQL, MySQL, Oracle. But when you're integrating it with a Java code, you'll be writing simple select statements. So select statement remains same in all these platforms, right? So this is all about the theory part. And now to get started with Selenium, the prerequisite is you need to have JDK 1.8 installed and configured, right? Installation is a different part, configuration is a different part. I'm going to show you how you're going to configure it. Then you need to download latest Eclipse IDE, right? If you have any old Eclipse with you, I would recommend you to move to the latest one, right? Because with old Eclipse, it is now not supporting many plugins, so we should be using the latest one. And then we need to have Selenium jars. That's it. Neon is quite old. I don't recommend you to use Neon now, right? New one is not 32-bit. Not sure if it is not 32-bit, because I'm right now on a 64-bit machine. If I navigate to the latest Eclipse, it will only gonna show me 64-bit version only. So if it is not 60 like 32-bit, then try searching for one prior version. Let us check. Download Eclipse. Just a moment. Uh, yeah, Eclipse. So go to this link. Selenium is completely practical only. Whatever code that I'm going to write, I'll be sharing you all the code. All the lectures will be hosted on this URL itself. So I'll show it to you. Yeah, this one. So like this is the this is your recent batch that is ongoing where the Java lectures are done. So all the code will be hosted over here. See, download code for Java, and then Selenium will be started from here. So for this batch, which is right now starting with the basic Java part, from the next session, your section will be added over here with the name uh, batch May 2020, right? And all the code and the videos for each session will be hosted over here itself, like this, right? So you're gonna get, I'll tell you what all access you're gonna get. You'll be getting these live session recordings access. These apart from this this one that I was talking about, these are the module wise videos based on my research that I keep on adding. Simple 20 minutes sessions are there. Guys, just a moment. Right. So I was talking about, I mean, these are individual sessions. You'll find my core Java sessions as well. And then these are the latest Selenium 3.141.59 sessions. I've updated latest Selenium 4 as well. If you go down in this library, see complete test ng, all advanced topics, latest extent reports, the latest version of extent report I recently added to it, then all the parallel testing, this some live projects. See, this is latest Selenium 4, right? So you should be able to see the latest. So all these things are based on my research, what all like I see. I just keep on recording these videos. So entire GitHub continuous integration, even if you want to go through Cucumber part, so you should be able to find it over here as well. The APM basics is there, but I've shown you the complete course on APM as well. You're going to get access to this as well. Not just this, one of the best part of this courses, you're gonna get access to my automation architects 7 live projects. So what is this course all about? This course covers 7 major frameworks. So all these frameworks that you're gonna find in the industry, you're gonna find it in this course. So this course is specifically about the framework designing. See, there are 7 live projects over here, including the Dockers and number of things. I mean, once you go through all these frameworks, there won't be anything left that you cannot answer in the interviews, specifically for Selenium automation. So all high level frameworks I've already recorded over here, right? In the live course, we'll be covering two major frameworks. So frameworks like I'll be designing end-to-end framework in front of you. So writing each and every single piece of code. We'll be covering data-driven plus keyword-driven. That is the hybrid framework. And then we'll be designing page object model. So page object model is very widely used in the industry. 95% of the companies are working on page object model itself. So we'll be designing the entire framework end to end from scratch, right? So that if you ever get a chance to implement Selenium in your organization from scratch, you should be able to do it easily. Otherwise, after the course, you'll be capable enough. You should be able to justify your current 2-3 years of experience in Selenium automation easily after going through these lectures. Yes, Malika, you already have access to all these videos. There are some of you who are already enrolled. You might not have access to all the courses. Just go to your My Courses and check once you are logged in if you have access to these. So if not, then you can just drop me an email. I'll gonna give you access on the same. Right? So rest people, I mean, who are not yet enrolled, I'm gonna forward you the steps. You can complete your enrollment, and then you're gonna get access to all this. We have a WhatsApp group as well, so where you can ask your questions, queries as well. So you'll be added to that WhatsApp group as well. Right. So this is all about what all courses that you're gonna get. Now we were discussing about the prerequisite. We still have time left. Yeah, half an hour left. So let's get started with Selenium part. So how are we gonna configure all these things? So the very first thing is JDK. So we'll start with JDK and then we'll see Eclipse part. Yeah, Dheeraj, I'm gonna tell you which Eclipse version. So first, let's start with JDK, and then we'll see step by step Eclipse. So let's go ahead and download. I'll show you where you can download JDK. This is from Oracle website, right? And this is the exe file. It just comes as a exe. Download this exe, but Oracle will now ask you to create a free account. Just sign up and download the exe. This is for 32-bit and this is for 64-bit, right? Okay, send your official website link. See, official website is waytoautomation.com. So all my contact information, everything is written over here. So these are my contact numbers. Students from US can call on this number. This is my Skype ID. You can add me on Skype, and this is my mail ID. So all the information, you'll find it over here itself, right? So let's come back to the Java part. Download this, and once you download it, you get a setup file, something like this. This is Java. Just double click next, and it gets installed. Right, it is already installed on my machine, so I'm not going to redo it, but I'll show you the step. It's very simple. It's like you're installing a simple software. Just click on yes, and it will start the installation process. Right, it should open up an interface, and then you just need to do next, and it gets installed. So once Java is installed, you're gonna see Java inside your program files. C drive program files. So by default, it goes over here, program files. And here you'll find the folder of Java. If you open it, you get two things. One is JDK, one is JRE. JDK stands for Java Development Kit, and JRE is Java Runtime Environment. What are these two things? We'll be studying about it in the Java session. But before that, we need to do some configuration. Once the Java is installed, we need to go inside the JDK folder, inside bin. Just a moment. Okay, if the location is on the PC. Make sure device drive is connected. Just a moment, some issues. Okay, I actually double clicked on it and it may have removed some of the things. Okay, I'm going to redo the installation. So you're going to see the steps. So I should not have double clicked on it. But it should be a quick process. Make sure you don't have latest Java 14 because you might gonna face some compatibility issues later on when you integrate other things. Java JDK 1.8 is one of the most stable. If you have any other JDK 14 or 11, I would recommend you to go to control panel and just delete it. So the folder is not empty. Click change. Okay, just a moment. Still have these. Okay, for JRE, just give me a moment. I think I messed up with the installation part. Anyways, JRE is already there. I'm not gonna reinstall it. No, the files are gone. Just a moment. For this, I need to close Eclipse. Let me redo the installation of Java. See, so it's whatever things that we'll be working on, everything is open source. So you need to do a lot of troubleshooting, right? And at times you need to Google around a lot. So don't be afraid with the troubleshooting part. At times things may gonna work. At the same time, things might gonna take whole day to fix. This is how things work in the industry, right? So this is Java. If you see any other version of Java on your machine, just uninstall it. So it's uninstalling it. So all these folders should go away. So it's still here. It should also go away. Let me delete it. Action cannot because it is open. Okay, maybe we have opened a lot of things. So they are using JRE Java programs. Okay. Let's drive program files. Still a lot of things are running, I guess, which are on Java. I should not have double clicked on it. Close. So I cannot install Java on runtime because there are many applications which are running on JRE. I actually need to quit all these applications. It's not getting deleted. Okay, let us give it a try once more. Okay, that's fine. If you are facing issue related to JRE, we can install it later on. For the timing, we got JDK. If it is already picking up JRE, that should be fine. But yes, I mean, once you install JDK, you need to install JRE as well. From the same step, you do next, and you're gonna see JRE as well install at the same location where you are installing JDK. You get one folder of JDK, one folder of JRE. And now when you go to JDK inside bin, you're gonna find Java over here. This is where your Java, right? Yeah, JDK 1.8 241 or 131, that should be fine. Right. So what you need to do is once you install Java, you need to set up some environment variables on your machine. Environment variables are something which are the global configuration that you need to do. See, if I right click on my PC, go to properties, advanced system settings, these are some environment variables. If I click on it, it will open up this environment variables. And these are your global system variables. Now, why this is important? Why do we need to do this configuration? Because when we install Java, there are many programs that may not gonna work if Java is not there on your machine. Like Jenkins is there, Maven is there. If you don't do this configuration, these programs, how they gonna come to know where Java is? This configuration, this system variable, when we set it up over here, this becomes as the global part of your system. As in, you can access Java from any location if you configure it over here. Any location in the sense, first I'll do the configuration, then I'll gonna show you that thing. So if I show you the JDK folder, this is JDK folder. This is where your Java root directory is. Just copy this path. Copy it. Go to your system. You need not to do anything in the user variable. Inside the system variable, click on new and type a variable name that is Java underscore home. This is a standard name that everyone use. And paste this value over here. And click on OK. That's it. You'll see a system variable created which is holding the path of your JDK folder. Now go little down over here. You will see something called as path. Edit it. You'll see a lot of things already configured over here. These are very crucial settings. You need not to modify it or delete what all existing things are there. See, these are your system 32. I mean, at times when you are installing Windows, these entries are added over here. So instead of touching these things, simply click on new. At the end, type percentage Java underscore home percentage. So when you type this thing, you're actually accessing this folder value. C drive, program file, Java JDK. This value actually going to come over here. And where is Java? Java is inside bin folder. This is Java. So you need to give a path up till here. So after this, you need to say backslash and bin. Yeah. And that's it. And click on OK. Click on OK. Click on OK. That's it. Java is successfully configured. Only this much thing you need to do to configure Java. Now go to command prompt and type Java hyphen, just a moment, hyphen version. And it will gonna show you the current version of Java on your machine. Now I can go to any location, not just this. Even if I go to C drive and if I type Java hyphen version, I should be able to access Java from any location on my machine. Now Java is globally configured. I can access Java from any location. Now whichever project needs the access of Java, it can access it globally. It will not gonna navigate to this folder and search for Java, where is Java. Right? Now Java is globally configured on your machine. Any project that may need access of Java should be able to access it easily. So this is the first configuration that you need to do, is you need to configure Java JDK. Once this is done, the next step is to download Eclipse. So Eclipse, you'll be getting it from here. Just download Eclipse, go to the latest download packages, and over here you're gonna see Windows 64-bit. If yours is 32-bit, if you don't find 32-bit over here, like someone is saying that I don't see 32-bit for the latest version, then you can see the previous releases from here. Don't go for the very old version. Try this 1912, 1909. I'm using 1912 at the moment. And just see if 32-bit exists for that one or not. I'm on a 64-bit machine, so that could be a reason it is showing 64-bit for me. But just give it a try. If you are on a 32-bit machine, just search for a 32-bit component for you. Right? It's showing 64-bit for all the components for me. Right? So now which one to download? You need to download this one. ID for Enterprise Java Developers. Just click on this and it will gonna give you a zip file. Yes, you should go for latest one. Don't go for the previous one. Download the latest one only. This one, 2020-03. Right? Although 2020 year is not very good, but still for Eclipse it's good. Right. So once it gets downloaded, you'll see a zip file downloaded like this. So I've added inside D drive softwares, and this is what the zip file you'll get it. Unzip it, you get a folder of Eclipse, and this is where you're gonna find Eclipse. This is the application. Double click on it and it will gonna launch Eclipse. If Java is not successfully configured, you're gonna get error over here itself. Right? So the first part is to configure Eclipse, Java, and then launch Eclipse. Rakesh, you're saying why not you are getting test-ng option? Because test-ng you need to again install it in Eclipse as a plugin. That part we're gonna cover it once we start with the test-ng part. Right? Latest version only, yes, Priyanka. But it's Eclipse ID for that. That should be fine. Any ID that supports basic Java, we need it for basic Java. The version that I am telling you, it has got Maven as well inbuilt in it. Right, so a lot of plugins are already there in this. So I recommend you to download this one. And then it will ask you to create your workspace. Just give it any name. Be it a name like 2nd May 2020 Selenium, and click on launch. So this is how you should be getting started with Java, and this is your editor where you will be writing the Java code. That is Eclipse. And then the last thing that you need is the Selenium jar. Once you get started with Selenium, so you would be needing that Selenium jar. Here you'll be creating a new project. Just click on create a project, select Java project, click on next, and give any project name. Let's say Selenium testing, and click on finish. Click on open, and over here, this is a plain Java project. Is Java version and Eclipse version are dependent on each other? No. You can even the latest JDK is gonna work for Eclipse, so that are not dependent on each other. But 1.8 is more stable for Selenium, and for other integration we're gonna do. So I recommend always 1.8. Many people are using 1.8 only. Right. So create a new class. Right click on src, new class. Give any name. Let's say test, and I'm gonna name it as browser, test browser. Check this main method, and you get a sample code over here. Let me increase the font size. So here you will be writing your Java code. Now you want to use Selenium. For Selenium, Selenium is an external project. It's not inside your Java library, right? You need to go to a third-party website. That website is selenium.dev. So who have actually developed this project? Selenium.dev. And from here, go to download and download this latest version of Selenium, 3.141.59. No, Tosh. If you upgrade to the new JDK version, you need not to do any changes because you have already configured the environment variable. Just you need to do is go to Java home and change the folder path. That's it. Rest other things will gonna remain the same. So download this jar file. Once you download it, it will gonna come like this. This is the Selenium jar, just a 10 MB jar file, which contains your Selenium project. The libraries, the classes that we have seen on the Selenium website, everything is inside this project, right? If you want to see the coding part as well of that project, I'm going to show you that thing as well, but not right now, later on. All the classes you can explore, you can go inside the classes, see the method, see the code that their developers have written. If you want to explore the API, you can do that thing as well. So that we're gonna do, but not at this moment. At this moment, we're gonna get started. For that, we need to right click on our project, go to build path, add external archives, and select the jar file. That is the only step we have followed so far. And then we need to call a class called as Chrome driver. Chrome driver, we need to create an object of this class, driver equal to new Chrome driver. And everything should be case sensitive in Java. See, the class name always start from a capital letter. Anything that is joining should be in the capital letter, right? And you're gonna get some errors over here right now. Why? Because this is an external class. This class is inside some package that you need to add. So once people who are not familiar with Java, not familiar with packages, don't worry about it because we are going to start with Java sessions as well from next Saturday. So all these things will be covered in those sessions. But for the time being, do one thing, just do a mouse over here. You get an import option, click on this, and you'll see some statement added over here. This is what you are importing from this package. Package is like a folder. This class is inside this folder. Like in case you have studied C, C++, you must have used include conio.h, studio.h. There is something similar to that. So students who have already covered the Java part, you must be familiar with all these things, right? So this is the first line of code that you need to write to invoke the browser. But as soon as you run it, it will gonna error out. See, we got some exception. So it says some illegal state exception. Let's read this error. The path to the driver executable. Now it is looking for some executable file, the driver executable file must be set by WebDriver Chrome driver. So it is looking for some Chrome driver file. Now this Chrome driver is another API which will help this class, this Java class, to communicate with the browser. Right? This is something like we were looking at this architecture, like I was talking about this API part. So here as well, the same APIs are there. The same API concept, like we have discussed for Expedia, Make My Trip, same thing goes with your client, your Java code, your browser. Your Java code and the browser, Chrome browser. This code is not directly communicating with the Chrome browser because Chrome is not the property of this Java or Selenium. You cannot do any manipulation programmatically on Chrome. Chrome will not gonna allow you to do that. So Chrome actually provides its own API that comes over here. And that API is the Chrome driver.exe file, which you need. So this Java code that you are writing, this will, with the help of this API, will gonna perform communication with the browser. And all these are REST communication. If you're familiar with API testing part, you must be knowing what REST API is, what our GET post calls are, right? So there is something in WebDriver called as JSON wire protocol. If you search for this JSON wire protocol, go to Google and type this. See, JSON wire protocol of Selenium. Although it's shows obsolete because in Selenium 4 they are making some changes in the architecture, which is not going to follow this JSON wire protocol now. They're coming up with new stuff, right? So, but for the timing, if you go down, the latest Selenium 3 that we are working on follows this JSON wire protocol. And this is nothing, these are just REST calls itself. If you go down, see, these are HTTP methods. So what all things that we do on the browser? We navigate to a website. If you see over here, navigate to a URL. This is basically a post request. If you use Postman, you can copy these URIs, paste it to the Postman, and then you should be able to automate the browser easily without using Selenium. Just by using these APIs, these URIs. URIs, or you can call them as URLs, these paths. And all these are get, post, delete. Any action you want to perform on a page, you want to refresh the page, you want to take a screenshot, you want to type, you want to click, all these are REST calls. Right? So we're going to explore this more once we practically going to start with WebDriver. So all these are all backend. I mean, this, when you are running this code, everything happens in the backend. All the communication, this Chrome driver class, it sends a request. It could be a post request, a get request to the API. The API is your this exe file, and then the API communicates with the browser. That is how the entire communication is done. So that is when you're writing the Java code, you need this API, and this API is provided by the browser vendor itself. If the browser is Firefox, Mozilla will gonna provide you that API. If the browser is Chrome, owner is Google. Google will gonna provide you this API. But you can get it from one single location itself. You need not to navigate to their website. You'll go over here. You'll find browsers, and you'll find all supported browsers. Whichever API you want to take, go to this documentation part, and here, based on your browser version, if your browser is 81, you need to check first which is your browser version, because at times if the API is different, then it might not able to talk with your Chrome browser. Mine is 81.0.4, so I'll be downloading this, and this is just a exe file. If you download it, yesterday we have downloaded it. It comes like this. Where have I downloaded it? Chrome driver. Yeah, this is the exe file. And what we did, the very simple step is just to copy it, go to your Eclipse, right click and paste it. And that's it. We have a jar file, we have the API, we have a browser class. We have our browser as well installed. If we run it, this will gonna launch your Chrome browser. See? And now you should be ready to access all the methods from this class and should be able to automate it. The website, any website you want, let's say you do driver.get, you want to navigate to any website, let's say http google.com, save it and run it. It will again gonna launch a browser and we're gonna navigate to google.com. That's it. Right? So what if you have other version of Chrome? You need to download that Chrome driver executable corresponding to that version. Go to this download. You'll see all the Chrome browser releases. Just check which version you have and download that accordingly. Right? And once you download it, just copy that file, right click on your project and paste it. That's it. Although this is one of the most simple way to copy and paste, but there are other ways as well that we'll be using it in our upcoming sessions. Right. And for the other part, guys, I got a lot of requests that there are some people who are joining from Australia and New Zealand as well, and the timings a little issue for them. So, is it for everyone? Is it comfortable for you if we do 1 hour early than the current time? Like current time, we are starting it at 9 p.m. Can we do it at 8 p.m.? 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. India time. So you can convert it into your time zones. Okay, Malika is joining from US. So she is saying no. Okay. Okay. So I think this might be an issue for the people who are joining from US. I got a lot of no's. Okay, how about half an hour early? Half an hour should be fine. Okay, that should be fine. So yeah, I mean, even I got a request from Indian students as well. I mean, 11 p.m. is quite late for them. So that's fine. We can get started at 8:30, right? So next session will be at 8:30 itself, and like students who are taking demo today, so you're gonna get all the information on your mail ID, how you're gonna enroll, and next session will be your core Java session. And students who have already completed core Java, your next session will be the WebDriver session itself, right? Okay, for the core Java part, there is a different instructor. So he is there with us from the past 3 4 years and have taken a lot of batches. So he's like master in core Java. So I can share you some of the recordings of him from the previous session. So just the core Java part he'll gonna take. Rest the entire WebDriver will be taken by me only. Entire Selenium, all the utilities, everything, all the live projects, frameworks, I'll gonna cover. Just that you are getting separate in-depth training on core Java. So you can visit this URL. I'll just copy and paste it over here, and just try going through the very first two recordings, right? You're gonna come to know the training quality. See, core Java, we'll try to cover up till collections, and it will gonna take at least 12 to 14 sessions, right? The last batch, we have actually covered so many things. So you're gonna see somewhere around 22 plus. There is one more session that I'm going to add, that is like 23 sessions. So it's like more than I guess 4 months, right? But we are not going to like stretch this batch for 6 months, right? So this is like we just for this batch we have given very detailed in depth of Java so that we can have everything available in the recordings. So you can go through these recordings as well. But the live sessions we're gonna do at least 12 to 14 sessions, somewhere around 1.5 months of core Java, and we're gonna cover up till collections. But these videos you're gonna see everything in Java. So what all things that you need for the interviews, everything is there already covered. Right. Yes, Nikhil, every thing is included. You'll get free access to this 7 live projects and the APM part along with Selenium and Java. So you'll be getting all these things. Right. So once your Java part is done, then I'll be taking your Selenium sessions. And rest, don't worry about the things, guys. You're gonna get complete support in your queries. You'll be added to the WhatsApp group. In case you have any doubts, any queries, you can directly post all your queries to that group. And even you can directly mail it to me or ping me on Skype. Okay. That's fine if you already have access to it. Right. No, videos are not for download. but you're gonna have lifetime access to these videos. You can download the code, some PDF files will also be there, interview questions will be there, resumes will be there. You can download these stuffs, right? How you can get, I'll be forwarding you the WhatsApp information. You all will be added to the WhatsApp. All right, so I think we should end the session now. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the session, right? Any feedback that you want to give, you can give it right now, or you can mail it to me as well. Right. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. So I'll be sharing you today's recording as well on your mail ID. All right. So I'll see you next weekend. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining.